Hi, Carol here. A warm welcome to my craft room. Well, here's a 9.5 by 9-inch round color wheel that we will get into later on in this first tutorial that I don't have up yet. And I have been starting a few calligraphy brush lettering projects, and mostly Psalms. I love the Psalms. And Psalm 40 is a beautiful psalm. It says, I waited patiently for the Lord, and he inclined unto me and heard my cry. That's the beginning of my first portion of Psalm 40. Right here, I'm just showing you how important the color wheel is for understanding how to place your color. And this is rather a funny tutorial, to say the least, if you stick with me. I began this endeavor, like I said, doing some brush lettering, some calligraphy, and I love verse 2 where it says, he brought me up also out of the horrible pit, out of the miry clay, and set my feet upon a rock, and established my goings. Such a beautiful psalm to do calligraphy. Here it is right here, and that's as far as I had gotten on Psalm 40. And it's like the last week I was trying to find my place. Have you ever felt that? When you have so many things you love to do and you just want to find a different project to, I don't know, relax and have some fun with. Well, this really wasn't, it didn't end up being very relaxing, but I do want to show you. I took out some Liquid X Pro heavy body paints, and like I always do, I put what I think I'm going to use in these crates. Then I took a canvas that was 14 by 20 inches. Here are the small Liquid X paints that you get in a set at Michael's, and I've had that for a while. And here's my large canvas. I'm throwing in some metallics also, and that's my Derwent spreader. Then I'm going to put my paints on my tiles. I do enjoy that because it's slippery and easy to clean when you're mixing, that is. So I thought I would just show you. Oh, hi. Oh, it's so nice. Yes, it's because he just wanted to stop by and say hello, and it's going on midnight here. You know what happens when I do my tutorials around midnight. Yes, I'm super tired, and I have 3 to 4 projects on the go. Either they're being edited or waiting to have a voiceover or waiting to get finished, as is this project right here, this large canvas. I had it in my mind I wanted to do flowers, but I didn't want them to be I don't know, I wanted them to be abstract, just out there into the canvas. And I ended up having to stop this and move on to something else because I didn't want to throw it out. But I have to say, I was a little frustrated and I didn't know where to take my painting. So instead of throwing it out, just clean up everything, set it aside, and come back to it. And I'm going to just show you how I start my canvases. I take some gesso, obviously, and I water it down with a spray bottle. I find that's the easiest way. There you go, right there. And I'm going to wet this reasonably well, and I'm going to add quite a bit of gesso, and then I'll dry it with the heat tool. I love the size of this canvas, and it did have a pre-gesso, it was set, let me just say that, it was set with gesso, that's what I'm trying to say here. And I'm scraping it, and look how much I had on there once I took water to it. That's why it's really important, if you're going to put more gesso on your canvas, to set the actual canvas, I guess, that you wet it, because that way you know you can pick a lot up from that. And all we're doing here is setting it so that we can paint on it, and it's going to have a foundation. Gesso's a foundation, and I really had the urge to paint something. I didn't know whether it was acrylics or whether I wanted to go into watercolor, or I wanted to do some charcoals. I love to do charcoals, and I haven't done any of these for some time now. And I thought I'm going to share the process of what happens if you get frustrated with a project. Now, I saw 3 different canvases that I liked, that I was inspired on YouTube. And I'm going to leave the links. Now, I did not case them perfectly. I just took some little bites out of the inspiration they left for us. And like I said, the links will be on there. And I'm going to show you how we can take somebody's work and just nibble at it and take a little bit for your canvas, go to somebody else's work that inspired you and take a few nibbles from that. And then, you basically create your own piece. Yet you were inspired by all these nibbles that you grabbed and that you incorporated into your work. So what I did, I wanted to have this light green to the background in the upper right-hand corner. I wanted to start there. So I mixed up some beautiful light green, almost to a light mint, so very pretty. And I knew the flowers, I wanted to have pink in them. Now this is going to be abstract. Okay, so I thought at the beginning, I'm going to do a floral abstract, easy for anybody to follow, because I am grabbing some tidbits off of an artist on YouTube and incorporating that into this canvas. I'm not doing it exact. I'm just taking some wonderful inspiration. So on the lower left side, I'm going to incorporate pink, and I'm going to run that straight up, and I'm going to have it really run into the green with no lines. It's going to be just, the transition's going to be smooth. It's going to be so smooth that my bee wanted to just take a run on it and see if there was any paint on his sneakers. And there wasn't, yes. So here we go. We're going to get some mixtures, and I'm just going to start with some color. We set the base to mint green and very light pink, very light. And then we'll incorporate this wonderful abstract cluster of flowers, let's say. Now, as I see abstract, you want to set a base that basically, the base is basically free form. You haven't made a flower, you haven't made a circle, a square, an oval, nothing. You are just flapping that paint on that canvas. I think this is about a 2.5-inch brush. They're inexpensive brushes. I have a story to tell you about these, which is really funny in just a second. As I was doing this, I have the artist's painting tutorial up, and I'm looking at his, and then I want to start incorporating my work into this canvas. So isn't this a beautiful mint green? It has the yellow ochre, it has the real green in there, and the white. I'm going to start it up on the upper right and head down. Adding, this is glazing medium, so I have a little bit of, it's going to set it quickly, but it's nice and liquidy. I like it, the glazing medium. I add a little bit right onto it, and it makes it soft and smooth, and I like the feeling of that. Then when I transition back down to the other corner on the lower left, I want it to be just a tad darker. You're going to see this as I'm coming up. I'm going to darken it up, and I'm going to add some of my glazing medium there to smooth it out so it's not so thick, and add white until I really like the prettiness of it. I don't want the green to overpower, and you know that acrylic paints, they dry light, so that's a good thing. Then I'm going to move my little acrylic palette there, and I'm going to dip in, I'm leaving that left corner for some pink, because that's the color of the flowers I'm going to use. The leaves in the green, and then the flowers into different hues of pink. And then later on, this is kind of like they call them a sneak peek of a canvas. This is not finished. This was going to be, I got to the point where I was going to just say, that's it, put it in my closet, and I don't want to see it for some time. But I didn't like that attitude. You know I don't like to do that. So I thought, okay, I'm going to take it to a certain place where I'm feeling comfortable, and you can do the same, then stop, then I'm going to come back to it after a few other projects that I want to get some practice in, but I'm going to do it with watercolors because I'm more comfortable with watercolors. I'm just taking a hair out there. It's here nor there, but that one's coming out. Yeah, so I'm comfortable with watercolors, but I did want to use up this canvas in my stash because I'm trying to get rid of a lot of my stash products. And I thought this would be a nice one for you and I to do together so you can see the frustration that I go through here, how it just wasn't coming together. Yet up till here I was really super pleased. I knew it was going to dry nice, and I knew I was going to have large flowers, so whether this all transitioned together nicely, it didn't matter. There would be a lot of flowers to cover any lines up that I didn't get out. And the ones that looked really thick, I just had my sprayer, my Tim Holtz, little sprayer, and I'm going to thin it out that way. I've already added the glazing medium to my paint, so that's pretty good. And it is going to dry quickly for me, and then we'll be able to move on and put some free form flowers in there for now, just for now. And I love the green and pink, don't you? The canvas is looking pretty good, and I'm pretty happy right here. I'm just trying to daub a few of, I don't know, I don't have any animals, so I don't know where these small hairs are coming from. But anywho, yeah. Isn't it nice to have like a little spray of water? And I hadn't used acrylics for so long, I can see why. As I was doing this, I'm going, oh, I shouldn't have started this project. I shouldn't have started this project. But I am not going to get rid of it. I'm just going to let it have a rest somewhere. I'm going to tuck it somewhere until I'm mentally ready, and I'm going to love it when it's finished, and I think you are too. But I knew I couldn't take it past this one place where I stop. Then I'm going to go into watercolors, which I love, and it's just a quick little watercolor painting. Because I lived up north, I really was attracted to this tutorial, and I thought I'll make it my own. The artist that did this, he didn't do birch trees, and if anybody knows me, I love birch trees. I could draw and paint with any medium birch trees. I just love the look of them. So I decided to change up the tutorial that I saw and put some of my trees I like, the birch trees, show you how to do that. And it's the most simplistic watercolor front for a card. I know anybody can do it. Now I would say, oh, there it is, it's done. Don't you wish it was that easy? Now I was kind of thinking I would, I'm darkening things up right here. And I'm going to set that aside. It was too dark, but I'm going to draw off of that palette. So we're not going to worry about that. I wiped some off, but I am going to add some yellow ochre, some green, and this is where my flowers, these are going to be my carnations, and then I wanted to add some realistic roses in with my impression style flowers as well. But we will do that later on, and I will post this after I get it finished. I'm only going to take it so far before I get frustrated, and then I can't paint. When I'm frustrated and my mind is, just not feeling it, I can't move forward. And on this style, this impressionistic style of painting, I use my fingers, which I really like. You can move everything. with your fingers. And as you can see right now, I will have, I'm not going to leave it an even number. There's my leaves, but I'm going to start out with 4 carnations, knowing there'll be more flowers coming onto this platform here. And then I'll move them around, and the wonderfulness, I don't know if you remember, I did this rain painting of the girl. It was abstract, and she had a red umbrella standing out in the rain. That was really abstract painting, and I'll try to post that for you so you can see me paint that in acrylics. Here, I just wanted some flowers, whether you think they're roses or carnations or tulips or whatever. As long as they look like flowers, I will be happy with them. I wanted the left one facing down, as you can see, so I add a light ring around the bottom. That gives you the impression that the flower's folding over and looking downwards. This one that I'm doing, I wanted it to look like it was right on. It's pointing right out at us, and that means I will put the petals more so in the middle. And I'm going to mix there on the right because that's going to be a flower. So I'll mix from that little spot, and I'll work this with my fingers to try and get some light shades, some dark shades, and like I said, just the impression of having flowers and leaves. Then I'll come back and I'll really work it so that it's just one of those paintings. The illusion of these flowers with the pink and the green is so satisfying that you honestly think you went outside and picked these flowers, but obviously they're not. These are for the beginner. This is nothing, there's nothing hard about doing some art like this, making a few petals and, anything you want looking down, make it darker in a flower. And now I'm going to add, I don't know if they're going to stay there, but it is going to be some little stems reaching out. I'm going to put the green, dark green areas where I'll go back and do my leaves. And it's going to be 1-stroke leaves. Once we get going at that, I'll show you how to do that 1-stroke, where you just take your, in my case, I'll be using the slanted paintbrush, and we'll do that. But for now, I need to just know where they're going to be. I don't want too much realism in this. I do want it to be more so abstract. And this is as far as I take it. I have 5 flowers, 6 flowers. I just keep going with it, and then I knew I had to stop. I was just getting a little tired, so here we go. Put that aside, that's going to be another tutorial. I'm going to use 400 series Strathmore. It's a big brown pack, 11 by 16, I think I said there. I'm taking some frog tape, putting it around. It's so soft. And this is a 5x7 card, by the way. I'm putting a border on it. And I'm going to use a number 12, 8, 6, 4, and 2 of the silver black velvet brush line. The Derwent Inktense Bake Earth watercolor pencil I'm using right here. And I moved, if you want a darker one, use the mid vermilion. It is a darker red, and a lot of your artists would do the undertones in red. You'd never believe it, but they worked in all your Van Gogh, all of these major artists would use an undertone of red. So that's why I took the Baked Earth, which is a little bit more brown, just to do the sketch, because I knew it's Derwent Inktense pencils. It's going to move with water, but yet I am going to see it underneath because it's ink. It's not going to leave my page. And it is cold press watercolor paper, and it's cut to 6 by 8. So I had some room to have the tape on and to cut it. Now I want my hill coming from the upper right upper corner, and that is going to slant down towards the bottom left. That way when we get our paints and they're going to run, we're just going to run them down as shadows for these trees. Super easy peasy. If I can do it, you can do it. So I'm looking at the image on my computer, and I'm drawing the cabin almost verbatim as this artist did in his tutorial. I'm drawing this cabin. I'm putting some fence there, and they're not all even. Some have broken down. It's an old cabin I pictured out in the woods, and this was brought on because my son and wife and family, they're purchasing some property up north, you know, on the lake, and I just felt I wanted to do this card and surprise them with it. So when, you know, they're just in the process of the purchasing and all that stuff, and so I was drawn to this tutorial to give as a card. Now I put some rickety-rackety little fence posts in there, almost the same. I'm going to leave the links to these artists that did draw this. I was on YouTube and I was watching, you know, some tutorials, just trying to get some inspiration. And I thought my cabin has to have Wi-Fi, and it has to have, that's why the pole's here. I don't care how far north it is, it has to have Wi-Fi, and I have fiber optics at my house so that my all my videos go super fast. And I'm going to put a fiber optic box, 3 of them, right on this pole. Yes, you're going to have, no matter how far in the bush you are, you have to have Wi-Fi and fiber optics, right? So that's what I'm imagining this is going to be. So I'm putting some lines here, some phone lines, fiber optic lines going across there, and this is where I'm going to seat a little bird or 2 on the wire, and it's going to have a chimney. Now this is easy, isn't it? You can do this. That's why I gave you a close-up. You are just doing a small cabin, and you can stop the video and see the shape of what we're doing. And in this tutorial that I am casing from this artist, he just had black trees, like normal trees. I don't know what kind they were. You could say the bark on them was dark. Let me just say that. I don't know what kind of trees they were. But there was about, I'd say, 7 of them, maybe. I'm sticking that it must have been an odd number. And then it had, in the snow, this is a snow scene, it had little twigs coming out from the snow. How easy peasy is that? But the artist in this one, he did it with an ink pen. He made it really dark and vivid so that you could see all this, and then he painted over it. And once I started painting with the water and I started going over this, I knew why. The Inktense ink, it's like a watercolor, but it's ink and it dries right away. It was running a bit here and there, and I didn't want that. So I'm going to dry it, and I'm going to go back with my, I call them Copic friendly markers, but it's a Staedtler 0.3. Super fine ink coming out of the bottom there. Marker, you know, black ink marker, really thin. It's pigment, it's a pigment liner. And it's 0.3, and we'll come in with that. But for now, this is nice because I can erase it with a white eraser here and get all of the values and everything I want, you know, to have in here. You know, I'll darken them up, and that's where I know it has to be darker, and I'll lighten it up where I know it has to be light. But don't get too hung up on that. Just if you can make something look like a cabin on a hill with a bunch of trees and twigs, you've done this already. This painting will be done for you in no time at all. And make sure it's running down to the lower corner so that when you put the shadow of your trees, here's my silver black velvet liner paintbrushes. I love them. It's 12, 8, 6, 4, and a 2. Perfect. There's my inkwell. I also have 2 big mason jars because I like to color with clean water. And then I got out my good brushes in case I needed them. I do need my long multi-liner to draw the twigs, and you'll see it when I start there. Now here is my stainless steel wash bucket. All of the water will drip down when I hang this. You can get this on Amazon. I think it's $20. And it dries your brushes in the night when you wash them off. That way you don't have to pull on the brushes to get them dry. We're going to work with the Gamsai Tambi. It's Kuretake Gamsai Tambi. And I took the this crayon, my Derwent case for my pencils, and I put little sticky, see them? I'm trying to think what they're called. I put one in the bottom, one in the top, and they just stick together, you know, like little wires, and they hold my paints. They don't fall out, and I can take them out. And I'm going to wet every single one of these in case I want to use it on this painting. And that's another thing. The next painting, I'm doing a cardinal in the snow on the theme of birch trees. You're going to love it. He is so cute. And it's going to be with a birch tree, a 5x7 card. And I'm going to change up the medium. This will be the Kuretake Tambi paints. I use watercolor paints here. But the next one, I'm going to surprise you with the paint. And you know why I'm going to surprise you? I can't think of what the name is. Oh, excuse me. Oh, now he is going to be a mess. It's right in front of me here, but I don't think, sorry if you hear the noise here, that I have the name of them, but I'll look them up. I have the little collection there, and I love those too. So now I'm going to get out a few little brushes. This is a flat brush that we will use just to get the background. Now, I love to use a lot of water. And here's where I knew, oh no, I like to lay a lot of water out when I watercolor, and it's going into my Derwent pencils. As you can see, I'm sopping it up, and I can't see a few of the lines that I would like to see. So I get so far with the wet of my water, I stop it, I dry it, excuse me, and then I go back and I actually put the scene in once more with my Staedtler pigment 0.3 marker. And I love the look of that because I'm painting over top of it. You don't even know I used a pigment marker. And but instead of pencil, I didn't want to lay it with pencil because it's hard to get that lead off. But if you use a watercolor pencil, it will just run right into your project and you won't see any lines. So that's the beauty of using the Derwent watercolor pencils. They will just, you know, if you make it too light, you're not going to see your cabin or anything you drew. If you make it too dark, well, you've got to scrub it into your painting, and you don't want to do that either. So I'm mixing it on the top. You can see how I have all the colors numbered on top of the tin. I put a piece of acetate, and I get to mix on top of this. And that's the case for my Derwent. I have a video that shows you how I did that. And I got everything in there. All right, so now, oh, sorry about that. I got a late email. So here I want to make my trees brown, a light brown at first, but those were way too dark. So I thought to myself, all right, let's go straighten up the sky. I want to darken the sky, separate the trees, and just get a wee bit of a picture of what I am doing here, because I do want to make it my own. That's why I changed the shapes of the trees from the artist trees I'm looking at, and I changed the placement of the twigs, and the cabin's pretty well the same, but yeah, I added a few more little posts, and yeah, you don't have to do it exactly, but I'm going to leave the links to these two. Oh yes, I must have wanted a break because this is out in the woods, and these cats have to stop and get something to eat, catch a mouse or two, or a sardine. Oh yeah. I'm just trying to see whether my watercolor is dry enough, and I'm sensing that for this marker it isn't. I need to switch over. This was too dry. The water was not dry. So I went and grabbed my wonderful Staedtler pigment pens. I will end up with, there it is. It's the deep gray marker, I can tell, and it's a 0.3. I always say these are my Copic friendly markers because nothing runs when you, or destroys your markers. And the same thing with using watercolor. The Kuretake Tambi watercolors, Gamsai, I get it all confused. It's only 3 words, but boy, can I mix it up. Let's just move along. We are going to get this scene a little bit more realistic, right? When we're doing this, I can see the lines. I'm basically tracing what I put out there with the pencil. I'm going to run it just through the trees, and I'm going to get those little crooked fence posts going down the hill. I'm going to run some twigs out. This is going to be snow, so grab some, practice with that. I end up using a fine liner to put them in once my paint is dry, but for now I want to see where I'm going to have all of these little twigs coming out. I'll grab a thicker brush to lay out some grays where I know I want shadow, and that'll be my reminder, otherwise I'll forget. So the gray gives me the gray blue. I mix up a gray blue, and now I'm going to add some pole posts to my fence and some knots in the, if you see birch trees like I do, lots of knots are in them. And then, your birch actually can rip off. It tears off. It's beautiful. You're able to do really nice texture inside of a birch tree. You get to learn how to add watercolor textures with birch trees because that birch rips off so nicely. You could even sand it up and use it as, a palette. I'm just looking for another, I have the choice of all of these pens in case one of them isn't working. So here we go. We're started my birch tree. I'll lightly put in some light brown just to get a picture, an image of, do I need a few more trees? And when I'm looking at some work to case or to get my inspiration, when I show you the video, I'm going to put the video in here for you to go over and look at it. You'll see that, things that are the same, you think are the same, can be quite different. Or the saying is true, things that are different are not always the same. And that's what I'm going to share with you here. The wood under this cabin, you can see I make darker because the sun's not hitting that wood. And then I'll do a lighter one on the roof that's coming down towards the front of us. So I'll gray that up. But when you see that black, it's not getting much sunlight under there, so you want to darken it up. And then you can add as many wires as you want from your fiber optic cable for your videos. I can't be out in the cabin without any fiber optic cables or Wi-Fi. Now I want some clouds, some puffy clouds. And when you put the white on there, how you make your clouds is not with the white. It's with your dark colors. Set the white there and let your dark colors bring out the white. Okay, so that's what I'm doing here. I'm just laying down some light, and you'll see me. Here I go. I'm coming in with the dark. And that is going to place my undertone is white. It's light blue, but I put a lot of white in there. And then as I take it away with my paper towel, I have enough of that as a base right there that when I put my dark with quite a bit of water, you don't want to do this dry. And you'll see on my hill, look at all the water. This water is going to, I need to make it so that it will run down the hill. And notice I went to the teals with the sky so that it was different from the snow that the sun is coming off of. That is going to be more of a pretty blue. So now I have to take, separate these trees in the background for their shadow, because the sun here, as you can see, is on the upper right hand side, and it is going to shine down on the cabin, make underneath that one the logs there darker. And even with birch trees, you'll see the sunlight. Mainly the shadow is what we're going to work with the blue. You're going to just, I mean, this is easy, just make some lines. Look at your trees, follow your trees, and make a lot of lines. And the bigger trees are the darker blue lines. The thinner trees are the lighter blue lines that you make. And it just all comes together. See that left clump there? It's all dark because the trunk of the trees are thicker. And then you're going to see a great big line right there. I'm going to fill that in with my big birch tree that is closest to us. The thinner ones are farther back, and the larger trunks are towards us. And look at how thick that is. It doesn't look out of place, does it? Now, I had my extra heavy acrylic whiteout from doing that other painting, and I used it. I made it an asset for this picture. I wanted to have some ice, and the ice, even adding the gray right there in that spot on the lower right, when you add a tiny bit of your acrylic, you're going to get an ice shape, a value that's going to look shiny like ice, because it's not watercolor, it is acrylic. Acrylic is going to give you that shiny look and not take away from your watercoloring, because that's what we're doing, right? We're watercoloring. And I knew I had to add some more light, because I'm going to darken my values up to add some nice clouds in the distance. Then you're going to draw little lines for your log cabin, and that's, you know, nice to have. That you can distinguish those, you know, like you cut that down. And yes, I love cabins out in the woods like this. And here, look at the beauty of watercolor is you can take it away and add it, take it away and add it until you're totally happy. Draw a few lines, you know, that that you're going to have some difference between that ice section. They're going to be vertical lines instead of horizontal. I'm going to add the black where I want things to stand out. And now I'm building for my birch, okay? I'll set the dark black to the bottom and then draw it up, because the sun is at the top. Even on a birch tree, I will transition it to gray at the top. Then you want to get out your number 2 marker. That's what this is, even though it's not a velvet line brush. I grab whatever's closest, and I'm going to make some little lines come out of my birch trees, just twigs. Just add twigs. I'm going to have quite a few of them on the ground, and see how coming from right to left, going on a slant on the, it gives you the illusion the sun is in the upper right, shining those down through those trees beautifully with the blue. You're using blue as a shadow instead of gray, which I love. Now I'm going to go in and darken my cabin logs, make some little lines. I'm going to add a brown door with some lines and yellow in the windows, like somebody, you know, left the lights on for us, right? We're going to leave the lights on for you. And that's what they're doing in this cabin. Now I want to have the wood a gray, you know, because this cabin's been sitting there a long time and the wood has just grayed out. And I tell you what, it's always nice to be driving a long way and finally get to your cabin and there's a light on. Then you're thinking, why is there a light on? I didn't leave a light on. Yeah, this is my crazy brain thinking right now after midnight. It's 14 minutes after 12. So let's continue. You can see how this picture is truly satisfying, and you want to bend some of your twigs like they broke. You know, there's going to be people walking through there, and all your little twigs aren't going to be straight up in the air. There's animals, little animals running through there, and they're going to be breaking your twigs. So bend some to the side, bend them down, into the snow. I'm adding a few more wires here. I needed some extra fiber optic lines. And then I'm going to put a little birdie there, and I'm going to put one up on the pole that's holding my fiber optic lines for my Wi-Fi. Watch me bend this. See how? There, bend that right up. Those twigs have been there a long time. It's like me. I'm old and I'm bent and rickety, just like, see how nice it looks when they're all bent? You know, it's almost like a scarecrow. Ah! See that one on the left there? It's like two arms just, ooh, yeah. What is that? I don't know. It's late. You can draw the knots in the trees with the white, and we are going to use the acrylic white to make our birch trees, and we're going to lighten up from black to gray. We're going to transition the dark black at the bottom and transition it right up to the sky in gray. You won't use as much paint is what I'm trying to say. And I went and got a, well, you can use a scraper. I have a metal scraper that I put lines in it. I went and actually, your pokey tool, you can poke some lines going back and forth, back and forth. See how when the color's added, I took out the paper. I just tore grooves into the trees with my little metal pokey tool. And one of them is a flat brush that I use when I do, it's a flat metal brush, excuse me, when I am making, when I'm adding white acrylic to black watercolor. It's amazing how it's become so real. And you can see here with adding, you know, digging in the paper and taking out some of that paper lines, that you get that look of birch trees, because they really do look like the wood on them is basically died off, and you can just tear it right off. Many artists make a lot of things out of birch trees, and you know, just tearing it. They fall on the ground too, the bark, so it's really nice. And then when I add the black, see how you can see all the tear marks? I just went back and forth vertically to make those lines to look like birch lines. Add them wherever you want. And then you're going to add some round knots in the trees. You're going to squirrel holes, think of that, and big knots like that's in the front of that tree you're looking at where my arm is. And you're going to do that. And here I'm going to add, I'm going to move my black ink around, gray it out until we add snow, because there is snow there, so you need to put a bit of snow on your line, those fiber optic lines, and you want to add some to the top of the pole. Oh, here we go. We're going to start to add the little details. Details, I love details. You know I love details. I'm sure you do too, and this is where we're going to dry, add all this little dead grass coming up through the snow, and new grass. You're going to let everything, we need to make some gray underneath the roof there of our cabin, so just drag the black we used on the roof or the lines. And here's our yellow, but make the door brown. Just grab some brown there, Carol. There we go. And then when it dries, add a doorknob and some lines. There's the horizontal gray going on there. I wanted a drift of snow right there, so you can make it as a line. Oh, oh yes, Birdie, you're too heavy. Yeah, oh, you're too heavy. You gotta get out. Yeah, thank you. There's my little birdie up there, and when he landed, the wire went wing, 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 wing. See, the wire's not straight. You can't have straight wire traveling. It doesn't work. The elements and the wind from being up north, you won't have tightened wires going from your house to the pole. They are going to be loose and boingy. So leave it that way. It looks more realistic. And then I'm going to, you'll notice I signed my name in the right-hand corner in where the twigs are, so it doesn't stand out too much. The fun part comes in when you're doing the details. Now this is a liner brush. This is a long brush with a long thin liner on it. And you're just going to drag all this you know, towards, well, whatever way you want. The trees are settling down the hill, so maybe the little twig lines of your branches are going down to the left. Put some to the right, wherever you want, because obviously the wind blows in all different directions. And there you have it. Now comes the birch trees. There's the acrylic white, just such a nice thick white. Then I'll add some with my fine liner. Excuse me. Oh, he's admiring the wood. Oh, maybe I could live here, he's thinking. Oh, I'll go and I'll tell my friends. So here we go. You're going to, you can see the knots that I drew there. I want to leave them black. All the holes in the spaces of your trees. There's another knot. Even in these darker trees back there, put the illusion of what you want there first. Then you can go back and fill it in. And thicken your paint up that you want to drag. There you go. This is just a plastic palette knife. They work well. I love them. That's what I use. And then just drag it through that white acrylic and it works wonderfully. Any palette will work as long as it has a straight line on it. And you just went from an average tree to a beautiful birch tree, didn't you? Just gorgeous. And I put some of the bark thickest to the left. And then some of it I will thicken, like right here, to the right, because they are individual trees. And I line the trunk traveling on the bottom like my twigs traveled with my liner pen, or liner brush right there. See how thin that is? It is very thin. Then I'm going to take my metal, this is my metal palette brush, and I'm going to go back in. This will give me a thick coat that I drag from right there. You get a nice thick, lift it up, lift it up. Don't, you're setting it and pushing, setting it down and pulling it over, setting it down, pulling it over. And then add some little bits that you have left over on your metal palette up on the roof and drag it down like you've got some icicles. And thicken up these little trees at the back. And it's coming alive, isn't it? I just love it. And this is not a hard painting, watercolor painting to do, my friends. Please try it. Go over to the link I'm going to leave and where I got my inspiration from. And we'll all draw from each other's talent. Here's where I add the ice. I put gray right there. I draw from that black watercolor in my twigs. I'm going to take a brush and drag it right there. That is ice coming down the hill. Then I'll go back with that and I'm going to add some deep, deep blue gray, drag it with my brush, and yeah. Then I'll go back and straighten it up where I took all the ink off there. Details. This is what I love to do after. Wait until it's dry. You don't want to ruin your marker. And go back and make those nice thick lines on your trees. Give them distinction. Give each tree different knots. Make little holes for bunnies down at the bottom. Make your shadows darkest where your tree trunks are thickest. And don't be afraid to move watercolor. That's why it's my favorite medium to work with, watercolor. It's easy to move, and look at there. I'm just adding a nice, I thickened that tree up actually. Then I'm going to go back with, when it dries, I'm going to go back with my marker and thin it back out again. And make sure they have little scrapes in them. Get your pokey tool and scrape those trees so that that watercolor will sink into there and give you some texture. You're going to want to love texture. And see how that acrylic paint, it will have this waxy look to it, and it'll look actually like ice and snow mingled together. You're absolutely going to love it, my friends. And make your little birdie there on the wire and straighten up your little twigs that are coming up. Bend those twigs, break them, break them. There's lots of animals running through there. And we're going to go add some distinctive detail to my house and bend those twigs, my friends. Drop some on the ground. when my little animals come running through there and my deer are coming and settling in, they will crunch that and the twigs. And that's okay because you're building a fire in your cabin. You're going to need some of your twigs there, some starter fire, I call it. And we're moving right along. We're almost finished and we did a whole painting. Oh yes, add some copper brown, that earth tone in your birch trees. Cover it up. Cover it up because we scraped this, right? Go back in with the blue, go back in with blue, and then come in with the black, the heavy black. And you're going to see little pieces of that natural brown bark that is in a birch tree. Then you can go back and really make it come alive. See that upper portion? I made it so you had that earthy clay color up in the birch tree. That detail adds life to your pictures, my friends, and that is a super easy tutorial to follow from the artist that I actually was inspired to do this. They aren't the same, but they're close enough that I had fun looking at the artist work like this, and I love the way he imagined his trees up north, and I love, love, love my birch trees. If you look at any of my paintings from the past, you know I do birch trees, tons of them. I'm a northerner, Canadian, I love my birch trees, and I think they're distinct in every way. Now, there, look at my kitty's looking out our window from the cabin, and what does he see? A little birch tree, a little birch twig coming across there. Is that cute or what? This is what I'm saying. Add some fun to your picture, and you'll just have, oh yes, oh, did you get into that paint? You're looking pretty guilty there. I see some white paws. Have yourself a blessed week, my friends. I look forward to the next tutorial, and I hope you had fun with me. Just take out your watercolors and have fun. Take care.